Think about that. Look at what happened from that. See, and this is why this documentary is I'm not calling it a documentary. I'm calling it a mockumentary. That's what I call it.
No, that's Spinal Tap.
I call it a mockumentary. I feel like this whole thing is mocking me. That's how I feel. It's wild. But go ahead.
Was there anything at all that you were watching this documentary that was new information to you?
New?
Yes.
No.
From the history of Puff, him coming up, anything new?
No, there was nothing new for me. There was nothing new for me. The only thing that was new was what was coming forward that had never come forward before. Kirk Burroughs finally admitting out loud that he had been essayed by Diddy.
Jaguar Wright just exposed what 50 Cent allegedly cut from the Diddy documentary, and it's far darker than anything Netflix showed you. She's naming names, referencing unseen material, and openly questioning what she claims is 50's real agenda behind the scenes. You didn't click this video by accident. You clicked because word is spreading that Jaguar Wright is going nuclear over what was left out of the Diddy documentary. And according to her, the most explosive parts never made it anywhere near the screen. While everyone keeps debating what did appear in Sean Combs' The Reckoning, Jaguar is now pointing directly at what she says was quietly pushed aside. And no, she insists it wasn't removed because it lacked impact. It was removed because it hit too close to powerful people.
It don't even sound, I want to put her on blast because she was telling me, she was saying to me that what I was asking for was crazy and they wasn't spending money like that. I'm talking about you got footage, you got clothing, you got, I was doing footage, I had pictures, all the stuff that I had, you could figure out a way to pay a brother and stuff like that. And then I was telling her about some prices that I've already received and I had the invoices to show it. And then she was calling me like I was lying. I'm like, yo, who do you think you talking to? You know what I'm saying? And she was talking about, there's no way nobody paid. Nobody what? I say, first of all you people come with these documentaries and stuff, the first thing you tell me, y'all tell these people out here that y'all don't pay, and y'all pay. You give, if you can make a picture look like $10,000, $15,000, you know what I'm saying? You can sit here and tell me that you're gonna pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, one thing led to another, and I was like, all right, well then, F you, I spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and go out of this documentary.
Here's what you're about to uncover. First, the footage Jaguar claims she collected that Netflix reportedly refused to air. Second, why major industry figures like Jay-Z and Clive Davis were barely mentioned at all. Third, what fans believe 50 Cent may actually be aiming for with this entire rollout. And finally, the names and material Jaguar says she's now releasing publicly. This isn't just about one documentary, this is about decades of industry rumors, silence, and power plays finally being challenged. And according to Jaguar, there are people at the very top who don't want the full story reaching you. So stay right here, because before we get into what Jaguar allegedly leaked, you need to understand what really unfolded over the last few weeks.
Yeah, he was there for so much of it. Because right after the Diddler beat the crap out of Steve Stout, the Jigga Man poked up on Rivera. Not long after that. All of this stuff happened around the same time.
Why do you think Jay-Z wasn't involved in none of this?
Well, I mean, he was involved in a lot of it. You mean, why wasn't he mentioned?
Yeah, mentioned in the documentary at all.
I mean, there was a lot of people that weren't mentioned. Matter of fact, not too many people in the industry were mentioned who were there and present. Isn't that cute?
Very true.
They found a way to tell that story while they kept everybody else clean.
50 Cent reportedly spent nearly 2 years developing this 4-part Netflix series, aiming to cover Diddy's entire story. From his early life in Harlem, through the rise of bad boy entertainment, all the way to the recent legal storm surrounding his name. On paper, it's positioned as a full-scale examination of one of hip-hop's most powerful figures. The series includes never-before-seen moments of Diddy speaking with legal counsel just days before everything unraveled, along with interviews from people who were once deep inside his inner circle. There are even reported conversations with individuals connected to the courtroom process itself. That level of access is rare. almost unheard of. This wasn't just surface level storytelling, or at least that's how it was marketed. But here's the part most people weren't prepared for, and this matters.
Who's the worst celebrity like that you've been around is like the most full of sin? I know no sin is greater, but like just was like, damn, this
Clive Davis. Devil incarnate. Clive Davis. He Janis Joplin. He blackmailed Betty Wright so she wouldn't tell anybody that he Janis Joplin. He killed Whitney Houston.
Not everyone who was expected to appear actually made it into the final cut. Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, that someone widely believed to know far more than he's ever said publicly, was removed after disagreements with director Alex Stapleton over compensation and creative control. And then there's Jaguar Wright. According to reports, her material was labeled too controversial for Netflix. Let that sit for a second. Too controversial for a documentary centered on alleged industry misconduct, and so the real question becomes unavoidable. If this was truly meant to be the reckoning, why was so much left on the floor? And why are viewers only being shown part of the story? That's exactly what we're here to unpack, because once Jaguar Wright started speaking out, she didn't tiptoe around anything, she went straight for the throat.
Was interesting to watch, you don't think? Kalima's testimony? She was probably the most pitiful witness they brought up to speak about all of this in the entire thing. Kalima?
Wait, why you say that? She was emotional. She was
emotional? That's what you call it?
That's what I'm trying to call it.
Capricorn Clark was emotional. I'll give her emotion. I'm sitting there looking at someone, in my opinion, who appears to be struggling with a substance issue, trying not to fall apart on camera. Meanwhile, nobody paying attention to the fact that she's sitting there afraid to really say anything at all because she's in the middle of a custody battle.
Jaguar publicly labeled the project a mockumentary, not a documentary. Her words, not mine. She said it openly mocks the intelligence of the viewer, and according to her, nearly 80% of what's presented across those 4 episodes is information she's already been sharing publicly for years. She even said, "I feel like this whole thing is mocking me." And at first glance, you might assume she's just upset about being excluded. But that theory collapses fast when you hear what she says was deliberately left out. According to Jaguar, this isn't about ego at all. It's about truth being diluted, filtered, and softened to shield specific people with power. And this is where things start getting uncomfortable.
Your thoughts as far as how they portrayed Kim Porter with this Reckoning documentary?
They didn't portray her at all.
Yeah, they didn't.
That's the thing. They didn't portray her at all. She was spoken for by Kalima. That was interesting to watch, you don't think? Kalima's testimony? She was probably the most pitiful witness they brought up to speak about all of this in the entire thing. Kalima?
Wait, why you say that? She was emotional. She was
emotional? That's what you call it?
That's what I'm trying to call it.
Capricorn Clark was emotional. I'll give her emotion. I'm sitting there looking at someone, in my opinion, who appears to be struggling with a substance issue, trying not to fall apart on camera. Meanwhile, nobody paying attention to the fact that she's sitting there afraid to really say anything at all because she's in the middle of a custody battle and she's trying to get her kids back. And she's got to be careful of whatever she says because it could make it impossible for her to get her kids back. Did nobody pay attention to that?
Yeah, no, she said she wanted $5,000 from Diddy.
She wanted $5,000 from her former bandmate and a billionaire. And he wouldn't even give her $5,000 to help her get her kids back? Why not? But then again, nobody's talking about who her husband is and who her husband is to Diddy. He's one of Diddy's #1 minions.
Oh yeah, no, that's news.
He's a loyalist. He is a Diddy do-wop-bop Kalina's also bisexual, so I'm finding it kind of interesting that she didn't see anything, she wasn't around anything, she didn't know about anything, and this is not me putting anything crazy on her. This is exactly what she said when she was on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta with Stevie J, who was also not mentioned at all during this documentary. Because Stevie J was living at the Star Island house. Tell me something, how do you have all of that stuff about Little Rod and there's no Stevie J? Now, it was really interesting because there was some of the footage that Little Rod has shared with this documentary that he shared with nobody else that he did an interview with, and none of that made it into the trial. There's images of him with French Montana and the Diddler on the yacht.
Yeah.
But nothing of Stevie J, surgically removed.
Jaguar points out that several major industry figures are barely present or completely missing from the series. People who, according to long-standing industry rumors, were right in the middle of everything. Jay-Z mentioned once, maybe twice, and that's it. Stevie J, a longtime producer closely tied to Diddy's inner circle, reportedly removed from the narrative entirely, despite being present during key periods referenced in the series. And then there's Clive Davis. Clive Davis reportedly held a 51% stake in Bad Boy Records, majority ownership. But here's where the math stops making sense. In a 4-part documentary, Clive Davis reportedly gets about 35 seconds of screen time. 35 seconds. How does that add up in a project that claims to be about accountability? When Jaguar Wright was asked who the worst celebrity she's ever been around was, she didn't pause for even a second. She immediately named Clive Davis, calling him the devil incarnate. Her words, not mine. She went further, alleging that his influence was connected to multiple tragic industry incidents involving legendary artists like Janis Joplin and Whitney Houston.
He's trying to take down Diddy.
No, he's trying to move Diddy and Jay-Z out the way so he can run it. And the truth is, I ain't mad at him. I just don't trust him. Because the truth is, he would just be another kind of monster in another kind of way. He don't want things to change. He just want to be the one that's running it. See? Easiest thing to do is to take your enemy's feet and hold them to the fire for things you know that they won't admit. Which is why when that C&D came out, he took all of that Diddy shit down. Because of his tape. Say, what is it with all of these pretenders? And now they got an even bigger one named Curtis Jackson.
Now, to be clear, these are Jaguar's claims and allegations, not proven facts, but what is undeniable is how little attention someone with that level of power received. A man tied to decades of industry control, controversy, and influence barely appears in a documentary marketed as a reckoning. And according to Jaguar, that's not accidental, because once you start seriously examining Clive Davis, you're no longer just talking about one artist or one label. You're talking about the entire power structure behind Bad Boy. And that's where things get dangerous for certain people. Now let's talk about Kim Porter, because this is another point that deeply upset Jaguar. Jaguar believes Kim Porter, the mother of Diddy's children, was not properly represented in the series. Kim passed in 2018 under circumstances that sparked years of unanswered questions, and according to Jaguar, she should have been a central voice in this story. Instead, her perspective was filtered through others, including former artists like Colleen Harper, and Jaguar feels that choice erased Kim's real presence from the narrative. Jaguar says she watched Kalina's interview closely, and she didn't call it pitiful because she thought Kalina was lying.
They left a whole lot of key things out. If they was gonna do something and they're gonna say in the reckoning of Sean Combs, the reckoning, or Diddy, the reckoning and stuff like that, it should have been a lot of people that we lost because of him. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't only Big, it wasn't only Tupac, you understand? For the atmosphere that he put those kids in. You got a guy named Anthony Wolf Jones, who was from Bad Boy from its conception as doing security and being one of the financiers of Puff having to have some money to keep Big and Craig Mack around before he got to Clive Davis.
She called it pitiful because, in Jaguar's view, Kalina was clearly holding back, and Jaguar believes she knows exactly why. At the time that interview was filmed, Kalina was reportedly in the middle of a custody battle, fighting to regain access to her children. According to Jaguar, that context changes everything. Every sentence Kalina spoke on camera could have been scrutinized, replayed, and potentially used against her in court. Jaguar argues that this put Kalina in an impossible position. say too much and risk legal consequences, say too little and get accused of hiding the truth. And then there's another layer that makes this even more complicated. According to Jaguar, Kalina's husband is closely connected to Diddy's inner circle, someone Jaguar claims has long-standing loyalty to him. So imagine being married into that environment, fighting for your children, and being asked to speak publicly about what you may or may not have witnessed. Do you see the pressure there? Do you see why someone might choose their words very carefully? Jaguar also questions the timeline. Kalina was present during periods when filming was happening at Diddy's Star Island home, the same location repeatedly referenced in connection with alleged incidents. Yet she stated she didn't observe anything unusual.
Want to know why there is no vindication for me? Because for 4 years, I've been screaming, not just Diddy, but Diddy and Jay-Z are monsters. And the victim-making machine kept going on.
Jay-Z has been notable by his silence since these charges were brought against Diddy. Why do you think that is?
Because that's what he does. He starts little fires everywhere, forces everyone involved to go and carry water while he sneaks away out. A response that change is now shown.
And here's the part that keeps raising eyebrows. Stevie J, who was reportedly living in that house during those same periods, is completely absent from the documentary. Not a mention, not a clip, not a name. That's not an accident. That's an editorial decision. Now let's talk about Gene Deal, because his situation explains a lot about what allegedly went wrong behind the scenes. Gene Deal was Diddy's longtime bodyguard. He was around for the parties, the business moves, the private moments, everything. He wasn't some background extra. He was supposed to be a major voice in this documentary. And according to Gene, even 50 Cent personally reached out to discuss his involvement. But then things shifted fast. Gene says he later had a call with director Alex Stapleton, and according to him, the tone was immediately dismissive. He claims he was told that 50 Cent didn't control what made it into the documentary and didn't decide who got paid. Gene felt the financial offer didn't reflect the value of his footage or his first-hand perspective, so he walked away. And honestly, that decision makes sense. Gene has since said the documentary avoided addressing several serious industry incidents, including what happened to Anthony Wolf Jones, a former bodyguard and close associate of Diddy who was involved in a tragic incident years ago. According to Gene, the production simply didn't have or didn't want to use the depth of context needed to tell those stories properly.
Trying to get to Bieber for a minute, and his management was backing him off. But it wasn't until Usher took over management and had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the diddler for 48 hours. Think about that. He had already been to the hospital. That situation that Gene was talking about. And you still took Bieber there. But you got custody of him first.
But here's where the real issue comes in. It's not that the team lacked information, it's that telling those stories would raise uncomfortable questions, questions that connect dots that lead to powerful people who prefer staying off camera. And that's the bigger picture here, because this isn't just about what got cut from one documentary, it's about why certain stories never seem to get told at all. Remember when Jaguar Wright went on Piers Morgan's show and publicly labeled Jay-Z and Diddy as monsters on live television? That clip exploded instantly. Everyone was talking about it. Clips everywhere. Debates non-stop. And then something strange happened. Less than 24 hours later, the video was gone, removed. No explanation, no follow-up, just wiped from circulation. Think about that for a second. Piers Morgan is a global media figure. His show reaches millions, yet that segment disappeared almost immediately. According to Jaguar, that moment alone says everything about the level of influence involved, because when content vanishes that fast, it raises uncomfortable questions. Who made the call? Who had the leverage? And why was that moment treated differently from every other viral clip? Jaguar argues this proves how deeply control runs. Across media companies, production studios, and even platforms people assume are untouchable. In her view, no outlet is completely immune to pressure, and now we reach the most sensitive claim she's made, one that must be handled carefully. Jaguar alleges that there was footage involving Justin Bieber that never made it into the documentary. According to her, the context mattered. and that's precisely why it was removed. She claims Bieber's early management was extremely protective, limiting certain industry access because they felt something wasn't right. Later, when management responsibility shifted, there were brief professional arrangements involving trusted adults, arrangements that were legal, temporary, and publicly documented at the time. To be clear, these are Jaguar's claims and interpretations not proven wrongdoing, but the fact that this topic was reportedly avoided entirely is what continues to unsettle people. Jaguar points to one detail that continues to raise eyebrows: a reported 48-hour period involving a teenage Justin Bieber. This was after Bieber had already been hospitalized for an undisclosed issue, something Jaguar does not specify herself.
Been to a P. Diddy party.
Yeah, 7 minutes, honestly.
And so, can you take us through like what goes on, like when you were there?
Money
Right.
and sex.
Were you surprised that there were so many cameras in his houses?
No.
So let me ask you, when you hear that Cassie was told to hire male escorts to come in what they call freak-offs now,
Yeah.
is that something normal that
Yeah.
happens in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Freak-offs.
Hey, everybody know that. I've been saying it
So why does Puffy, why now? Why?
because he's the acceptable monster at this time, like R. Kelly was the last time I sat on this couch.
She says Gene Deal has referenced this situation in past interviews, and Jaguar frames it as a moment that deserves serious scrutiny. She asks the question many people quietly wonder about: does that situation reflect protection, or does it raise concerns about judgment and decision making? Now that more allegations about Diddy have surfaced publicly, Jaguar questions why trusted adults at the time would allow that level of access at all. Again, these are her questions, not proven conclusions, but they're questions she says were never addressed. According to Jaguar, footage related to this period allegedly exists but did not make the final cut of the Netflix documentary. She believes that including it would have opened an entirely new line of uncomfortable discussion. Not just about Diddy, but about who else was aware and stayed silent. Jaguar suggests that major industry names were shielded, possibly through legal caution, financial considerations, or behind-the-scenes pressure. That's her belief, and this is where her anger fully boils over. Jaguar doesn't believe 50 Cent created this documentary to expose truth or protect anyone. She claims his motivation was strategic, to weaken rivals and reposition power within the industry. In her words, he doesn't want the system gone, he just wants to be the one running it. Jaguar goes as far as to say that if her suspicions are right, then 50 Cent would just be another kind of monster. In another kind of way. That's harsh, but pause and think about it for a second. 50 Cent has openly feuded with Diddy for over 20 years. The trolling, the jokes, the public shots, all of it. And now suddenly he's positioned as the face of accountability. Jaguar isn't buying that shift at all, and she's not afraid to say it. But she didn't stop there. Jaguar went even further and issued a public warning to 50 Cent. She alleged that he allowed toxic waste dumping near his Millennium Studios property in Shreveport in exchange for financial gain. To be clear, these are her allegations, not proven facts. She claimed she has evidence and made her message unmistakable. Do right by Shreveport or I'll tell everybody. Her words were direct, aggressive, and impossible to ignore. And then came the line that turned heads. She warned that the Diddy situation isn't the only secret you got. That wasn't subtle. That was a shot fired. What really fuels Jaguar's frustration is this. She says she's been speaking about Diddy's behavior for years, long before documentaries, lawsuits, or headlines made it popular. When asked about what went on at Diddy's parties, she didn't soften her language. She described an environment driven by money and excess. She says she wasn't surprised when reports surfaced about surveillance equipment in his homes or when allegations involving Cassie began circulating publicly. According to Jaguar, none of this shocked her, because she's been saying it out loud for years. But instead of being heard, she was dismissed, labeled unstable, called a clout chaser, written off as a bitter former artist with an agenda. And now with Diddy facing serious legal fallout, people are suddenly acting shocked, acting like nobody saw this coming. But Jaguar says she was warning everyone the entire time. She flat out said none of this was a secret. In her words, everybody knew what was going on. She claims she's been saying it publicly for years, so the real question isn't what happened, it's why this moment? Jaguar's answer is unsettling. She believes that industry doesn't move based on justice, it moves based on timing. In her view, certain figures become acceptable sacrifices when the narrative needs to shift, not accountability, control. And then she took it even further. Jaguar warned that this situation doesn't end with Diddy. She claims the spotlight keeps moving, name by name. She openly suggested that other powerful figures are already lined up. And she didn't hesitate to mention Jay-Z as someone she believes could eventually face scrutiny. No soft language, no backtracking. According to Jaguar, once one person becomes exposed, the silence around others gets harder to maintain. She says pressure builds, cracks form, and suddenly people who stayed quiet start reconsidering. And that's where things get dangerous, because this story isn't slowing down. It's expanding. More names, more claims, more behind the scenes tension. And according to Jaguar, what's already public is only a fraction of what exists. The Netflix documentary might be sitting at #1 right now. People are talking about it at work, on social media, everywhere. But Jaguar wants you to understand something clearly. What you watched was only the surface. According to her, the real reckoning hasn't even started yet. Because if this series was truly meant to tell the full story, why are so many key figures barely there or missing entirely? Why was Jay-Z only mentioned in passing, despite decades of closeness? Why was footage involving Justin Bieber allegedly removed altogether? Why does Clive Davis, a man who reportedly held majority ownership in Bad Boy, get less than a minute of screen time? And maybe the biggest question of all, why does Jaguar believe 50 Cent had motives that go far beyond accountability? Those aren't small gaps, those are structural holes in a story that claims to be complete. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Jaguar is raising valid points, or do you think she's going too far? Do you believe 50 Cent made this documentary for the right reasons, or does he have his own agenda? Drop your thoughts in the comments, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video, and I'll see you in the next one.